Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Owen and Greg as we're reacting to the news that Vasyl Lomachenko and George Kambosos Jr. will face off down under in Australia, April 13th, 14th. Kind of suppose it depends. It depends where you are in the world as to what date the fight's on. But yeah, it looks like the IBF lightweight titles on the line now that Devin Haney is obviously up at super lightweight. Come to you first, Greg. Your initial thoughts on this fight? Are you surprised? Are you looking forward to it? What give us your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Really looking forward to this fight. I think it's a good clash of styles. It's almost like a bull and a matador, isn't it? So I'm surprised that it's for the IBF title. I didn't realise that things were moving that quickly with Devin Haney. I know he's obviously moving up to challenge Regis Prograis, but Paul, it's a fight I'm really looking forward to, and I think it's going to be a crowd pleaser.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, obviously, two former world champions. Kambosos, the man, the only man to beat Teofimo Lopez. Then, of course, Lomachenko. Everyone knows how who Vasyl Lomachenko is. Doesn't need any introduction. What about yourself, Owen? Do you share Greg's sentiments? Are you looking forward to this fight?
Yes and no. I'm looking forward to seeing Lomachenko back in the ring. Lomachenko, I don't think he's ever been involved in a boring fight, really. He's one of my, and I know a lot of people's favourites. I don't think Kambosos is anywhere near Lomachenko's level. And I think if Lomachenko turns up, I think we could see levels shown. But I suppose, again, like I say, it's two ex-world champions fighting for a world title. I am surprised, like yourself, with how quickly it's moving with Devin Haney, but it's always good to see Lomachenko active. And yeah, it's back down under, so obviously boxing's booming in Australia at the moment. So yes, it's good to see in those aspects, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I think I kind of share what you've said there in the sense that, it's a world title fight. I love watching Lomachenko fight. Kambosos, yes, perhaps has underperformed against Maxi Hughes. Was lucky to get that victory before it lost back-to-back fights to Devin Haney. But, Devin Haney beats 99% of fighters around lightweight or super lightweight probably anyway, so that's no disgrace. And then obviously Lomachenko too coming in. This is going to be his first fight off that Devin Haney defeat. So I may as well ask you this one. Do you think that both men, of course, as I mentioned, have lost to Devin Haney? Can you take anything from those two? The fact that Kambosos, was comprehensively outboxed for 24 rounds, basically. Yet the Lomachenko one, actually, a lot of people had really close and perhaps even had Lomachenko edging it. Can you read into those fights, and will you be reading into those fights, in preparation for making predictions and stuff for this fight, or is it just completely different clash of styles? Back to you first, Owen.
No, I think I can read into it because I think Devin Haney could have beat Kambosos literally using a jab over those two fights. And that's no disrespect to Kambosos. I just think Devin Haney's levels above him. I think you look at the Maxi Hughes performance. It could have been Brit glasses, but I did have Maxi Hughes winning that. I don't think it was daylight robbery, but I do think that Maxi Hughes won that fight. And Lomachenko again, I had Haney beating Lomachenko, but it wasn't like 6 or 7 rounds. It was tight, and there were people that scored it for Lomachenko where I thought it was one of those, if you give it a draw, fair enough. If you give it one either way, it's whatever you prefer. So personally, I think you can read into it because Haney's obviously been the king at the weight. So when you both go in against him, you can always compare it. I mean, Lomachenko is a complete kettle of fish in terms of what Kambosos is facing, but I think it would be more than fair, and I personally will be reading into their performances to make my prediction for this fight.
Interesting, mate. What about yourself, Greg? Do you agree with Owen, or is this just a completely different clash of styles from those fights that we've mentioned?
In a way, I agree with Owen. Lomachenko's biggest problem for me, Paul, is I still to this day don't think he's a lightweight. I think anytime he fights someone a lightweight, I always think he looks a lot smaller than him. Devin Haney is a monster at lightweight, and I think that's what made that fight more so close. Was it the difference in size? I mean, I know a lot of people thought Lomachenko actually won that fight. It was certainly very close. So yeah, I do look into that. I look at Kambosos as being a guy who, like Owen said, he was out-jabbed for 24 rounds. I was shocked they took the rematch, if I'm being honest, but the money was on the table, the titles were on the table, so fair play to the guy. But yeah, if I look into both of those guys fighting, Devin Haney, I just see one winner here, and that's Lomachenko.
You've mentioned there you think there's one winner. We may as well just get on to our predictions now. Back to you straight away, Greg. There, you did say you fancy Lomachenko to perhaps be victorious when he clashes with George Kambosos Jr. How do you see that playing out? How do you see it happening? Could he potentially get a stoppage, or are you leaning towards points?
It's very, very possible that he can get the stoppage. Before I come on to speak to you, Owen, I actually was trying to think to myself the pros and cons to the fight. And Lomachenko's 35. In my head, I had him as 45, and I'm like, 35, it's old, but it's not that old. There's guys there that are still at the top of their game at 37, 38. So maybe I need to cut the guy some slack. I just think that George Kambosos is a bit too wild. He's not defensively sound enough to come in and throw bursts at Lomachenko and not get caught on the way back out. So it could be a late stoppage. What I would probably aim towards is probably a wide Lomachenko points win, if I'm being honest.
Very interesting, very interesting. What about yourself, Owen? Are you seeing a stoppage, or perhaps agreeing with Greg in a wide points victory for Lomachenko?
I do agree with where Greg's coming from. I think it's more than fair the way he's analysed it, but I think I'd lean towards the stoppage. I think if you look at the way Devin Haney beat George Kambosos, he done the basics. Like you say, he was out jabbed 24 rounds. Haney didn't have to get out of probably second gear, let alone third. So when you look at that, if Lomachenko's coming in at his best, which I don't see why he wouldn't be, he comes in and he creates weird angles. So I think if George Kambosos struggles with the basics of a top fighter, how's he going to cope with someone like Lomachenko at the top level? Comes in at weird angles, throws spiteful punches, and I think because of where Greg alluded to the defense of Kambosos, I think Lomachenko will be able to find those gaps and find those holes, and I'll be going for a late stoppage. I think he'll take control of the fight fairly early on, and then it'll just be too much for George Kambosos, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. Agree with both points that yourself and Greg have made there. I am leaning towards the stoppage as well. In fact, I'm not really leaning towards it. I'm actually confident enough in the stoppage for Loma. I think that, as you have both correctly said, it's just this, there's kind of levels here, and the defense of George Kambosos is not good enough to compete with Lomachenko. Lomachenko's angles, like the way he throws punches, I've said before, 1 minute he's in front of you, and literally a split second later he's round beside you, hitting you to the body, and then he's around the other side of you, hitting you to the body. It's incredible, his footwork and variation of shot selection. I think he'll break Kambosos down personally, and would be tempted to back the late stoppage, mid to late. I don't think he's not a concussive puncher. Obviously, Lomachenko, it's more flurries of shots and combinations and breaking opponents down. How he ends up getting his stoppages, and I see that being the case again for Kambosos. Kambosos tough as his nails, hard as old boots, but yeah, ultimately, I'm leaning towards a late stoppage for Lomachenko as well. Lads, thanks for jumping on with me. Enjoyed that. We'll have a new IBF lightweight champion come April. Will it be George Kambosos Jr.? Will it be Vasyl Lomachenko? Please let us know in the comments, guys, your thoughts on this fight, and yeah, whether you agree with Owen, Greg, or myself. Thanks again, lads, for joining me, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure as always, mate.